Karan Tumasz. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. I first heard about you, saw you at those events at that spiritual metaphysical hotspot place on Bristol Pike. It is in the Bensalem area, and I've had nothing but positive experiences since then. I'm very glad that I was able to clear out that place of any negative energies and negative portals. And actually, that's something that's going to come a conversation, I'm sure, later in this program. There's a few things about that need to be kind of worthy of addressing. But anyhow, first, I want you to give your life story from a primary source perspective regarding what you experienced in your life that realized you have metaphysical abilities and that metaphysics is not a quack science. It's real science of consciousness, basically. And debunk the debunkers and everything that goes with it to show it's real. You got the floor.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on tonight. It was really great to meet you, and I'm so excited to be on this program. So it's a long story, but it started when I was a kid. I could see things. I never thought anything of it. I thought everybody saw things. I had dreams that came true. I had premonitions, just a bunch of that kind of stuff. And probably when I got in my teens, I realized that not everybody saw things and not everybody thought the way I did. My friends kind of started calling me a witch, which hurt my feelings a real lot because I was thinking, well, I'm not a witch, but because I could predict things and just see things and just kind of know things. And then I did the normal stuff. I went through high school, I got out of high school, and of course, in my era, nobody wanted to be a psychic or a medium when you got out of school. Now it seems to be pretty popular. But I went on to regular stuff, went to school beyond high school, learned accounting, bookkeeping, all of that, got a regular job, married, had a family, continued to have all sorts of experiences seeing different things. I dreamed of planes blowing up into buildings in I think that was like 1981. I dreamt that. Turned out to be the Twin Towers. And I would have dreams. I started dreaming a lot of things that started coming true when I was in my later teens, probably around 16, 17. I would dream things that would come true exactly the next day. And then it started being a little further out, maybe 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out. And then by the time I was in my early 20s, it was 10 years, 20 years out, things of that nature going on. The spirits that I would see or hear, I would hear them mostly because, I was busy. And when I was falling asleep, I would hear them talking to me, calling my name. A lot of people go through that, I understand. And I would just say, like, leave me alone. I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And then when I hit my late 20s, it came to a point I couldn't deny things anymore. I was really interested. I'd been looking for a teacher or looking to learn about some of the things that I'd been experiencing that most of my friends did not experience. And I found someone out here in Pennsylvania, and her name was Dr. Christina Davis. She took one look at me and said, "Oh, they talk to you." And I thought, oh, someone can see what I see and knows that they talk to me. I didn't really know who they were. I still call them they. And I embarked upon a pretty heavy time of studying and researching. I loved the researching. We went to a bunch of different haunted places. Bucks County is amazing for how many haunted things are in there. We did a lot of color healing research. We worked with places like the Menninger Institute in Topeka, Kansas. We worked with the Occidental Institute out in Germany. We worked with the ARE and Atlantic University in Virginia Beach, put out a lot of papers, did a lot of research, and had a lot of fun and started to understand what I was seeing, including auras. Seeing auras was really interesting. I remember the first time I actually saw something. on someone that was very prominent. And I had gone to see a chiropractor speak. And while he's speaking, I'm in the back of the room. He's in the front. He's waving his hands around. And his palms are orange. They look like he painted them orange. And I thought, I'm going to go meet this guy and see why his palms are orange. And when I got up there, his palms, of course, were not orange. And I realized, oh, I was seeing the energy he was emitting as he was speaking. So that got me into doing more research again. I've done a lot of work with Carillion photography, which takes pictures of the aura and real pictures of the aura, not blob pictures of your aura. And you would see the spikes and the spaces in the aura. We did fingerprints mostly. And the research we did with that, a lot of times when I was teaching, I began teaching in the adult evening schools, is I would have my friend Frank would come in with his Carillion photography machine. We would have everybody take pictures of their fingertips. Before we start class, we'd do some white light meditation and take the pictures afterwards, and you would see a remarkable difference in everybody's aura from these pictures. At least their energy fields had changed to where these spikes had calmed. The white light was definitely larger around the fingertips. The fingertips were whole in the pictures. We had one guy come in, and no matter how many times we took his picture, he had 7 fingers in his picture. And finally, we just gave up and did the meditation and took his picture at the end. And then he only had 5 fingers in his picture. So he definitely was carrying something with him. And during all that time as well, I studied Kabbalah. I studied for 8 years. And I studied every metaphysical thing that was out there that I could. At the time, it wasn't as prominent as it is today. So I studied shamanism, I studied color healing, I studied crystals, I studied shiatsu, I studied music healing, I studied all the regulars, tarot, psychometry, iridology, your graphology, which is your handwriting. I learned every type of psychic stuff there was to do. I learned remote viewing, which I called astral traveling. Learned a lot of different things. But what I ended up really working with was the angels. And the angels were something I saw from when I was a very young child. I would see them. I also saw ghosts really early on. And again, when you're a kid, you think that everybody sees whatever you see and didn't think anything of it. Didn't think anything of when I saw different people's ancestors behind them, things like that. So fast forward now, through all that studying and then practicing, you like anything, you have to practice it. You have to work it to get better at it. I ended up finally stepping out of the corporate world, or real world, as some people say, and started doing this work as my main job. So I do readings, mediumship. I do a lot of teaching because I believe that everybody is psychic. Everybody can do this work to different degrees, just like everyone can learn to do math to a point. Everyone can learn to read. Maybe some read faster than others, but we all have this innate ability. So again, I started my business. I wrote a couple of books. I have a meditation book out there. I have a gem book out there. And gems and crystals seem to be a big thing. For me, anyway, we seem to get a lot of healing results with that. Also, I studied pyramid healing with Max Toth, who wrote Pyramid Prophecies and Pyramid Power. He was pretty big back in the day with the pyramid items. And I guess that's probably it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. And regarding the events that I've gone to that take place at that place on Bristol Pike in the Bensalem area, I was very thrilled to have gone to that Heal the World meditation. I must admit, though, that reason I haven't been there as much as some of the other places is one, it's a little farther. And even though it's advertised as pranic healers available after the event on the awakenche.org site, that's actually not really doesn't appear to be the case. Unlike the pranic healers that are definitely going to be available at the other Awaken based center that's in the intersection of Bristol Road and 611, not to be confused with Bristol Pike, where you guys are on. And however, as a token of being a guest on my radio show, I will do everything I possibly can to come to the meditation this Sunday to see you. And I am very, very grateful that I was able to do that meditation at that little potluck that you had. I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat there because I didn't bring anything, but I was kind of expecting there to be some sort of a meditation anyway. And even though it wasn't on the schedule, that was very nice of you to put me in the room by myself with the audio to make the most of that meditation. And there's definitely some magic behind that meditation. It definitely seems to have an effect on me, and I'm sure the rest of the world too, because it's a world healing meditation at a metaphysical level. And the first time I did that, you actually noticed that Archangel Michael, kind of my namesake angel in a sense, well, sort of, Michael's my middle name, is the archangel that you saw, and you said, he's going nuts over you, Andrew. He's like, he seems to be infatuated with you to a great extent, because he's going over you like crazier than I've ever seen any archangel ever go over anybody. Now, the interesting thing about that is, for a little while, I was doing Archangel Michael healings on myself more than any other archangel. Elizabeth Harper from the UK has audios of Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael, about 3 minutes long, where you could do healings, and I did Archangel Michael for a very, very, very long time, just him, before she also sent out the Raphael and Gabriel ones. And I can't help but wonder, does the fact that I had been doing Archangel Michael for a much, much longer period of time, healings with him, could that perhaps explain why he, compared to the other archangels, is so with me and was so with me at that time? Do you have anything to say about that?
Okay, well, first I'm going to back up a little bit. So we no longer have been running the meditation on twin hearts, just because, as you said, it's kind of hard to get the pranic healers out there on Sunday evening to help, and we're getting ready to change that to a different night. But I do know that the Awaken Center itself does hold them, I think, twice monthly, and they do have pranic healers there that are ready to do healings afterwards. That's my understanding. I haven't been to one because I'm always working when they have it. But as you said, our area is a little bit remote for some folks, and we weren't getting the turnout. So for right now, the Sunday evening meditations have been canceled. And I'm going to check with Awaken to see why it's still on their website, if it is. So now, that being said, the meditation you're talking about is meditation on twin hearts, and it is a meditation that was devised by Master Choa Koksui, who is the perpetrator, I'm going to say, of pranic healing, the developer of pranic healing. He started pranic healing by studying every different type of energy healing out there, including different religious healings, and pulling the best from each one, and pranic healing was the result. The meditation that you come to that you have some great results with is definitely, it raises you up through a couple of different dimensions, first of all, and second of all, it takes care of healing not just you, it also works on the world. Now, the evening that you came in and Archangel Michael was around you, it could definitely be that you had been working with him, that he was around you. But my experience with the archangels has been that they will definitely be around whoever needs them the most, or who they're helping the most. Now, for you, I know that there's definitely some steps forward you were trying to take, and still are. And Archangel Michael always helps with that. So if there's obstacles, he's removing the obstacles for you. And I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing. I don't always remember what happened when an angel came in, if there was messages or not. But I do know Archangel Michael pretty well because he is a frequent flyer at our place. And when he does come in for people as strong as he did for you, it's because he's really helping them to move forward with, especially with any spiritual work or metaphysical work that they're trying to accomplish. So does that answer your question?
I guess it does. And in addition to well, how exactly do you see him? I mean, one would have to say, is it really that you're seeing him with your eyes? Because it can't be your eyes. Because I mean, if these are entities of higher consciousness, then they would be outside the frequency range of visible light. One would have to assert, and also I've heard from some people like Cryon say that it's kind of a mistake to think of these archangels as gigantic winged beings of light that you can actually put a face on and wings on and even give a sword to. The, these are higher level consciousness entities, for crying out loud. They can't be adequately imagined by someone in our third dimension of consciousness. It's just that that's the way that we can make sense of it. So that's the way we've depicted them. But it's really not proper, he would say, to depict them as a humongous light-bearing angel with wings and a sword or a horn in Gabriel's case, maybe. So do you agree or disagree with that? And how exactly, for those that are maybe envious of you, dare I say it, and jealous of you, that you can actually perceive this, how do you
Well,
give advice on how they can see it, and what are you seeing or hearing or whatever sense you're using?
okay. First of all, I would hope people aren't envious of me, but um, and I have found I would disagree with your comment that it's kind of preposterous to think that these beings appear in certain ways, because they absolutely will appear to people in whatever way a person is going to understand them. It doesn't mean that that is their natural form. Their natural form is energy, like all of us. However, they will appear, and that is why Archangel Michael has been depicted. He is in 7 of the 12 major religions, and he often is depicted the exact same way because that's the way visionaries have seen him. So Archangel Michael is understood to have a sword. He is understood to have blue flame angels, meaning some kind of beings of light that look like blue flames. He is understood to be a warrior. He is understood to help mankind. He is understood to be one of the champions of man. So it's not preposterous. And people like myself and people who can see things do not reside only in this 3D world. So when I see these, I guess the easiest way to explain it, it's kind of like when you're daydreaming. You know what's in front of you. You know what you can touch and is tangible in front of you, but you're also daydreaming or working through something else at the same time. And that's the way I see them. So sometimes an angel will show up, and they do show up with full wings. Sometimes they don't. They just show up like people. We know that angels speak through others constantly. So they show up in a way that the person they are trying to make contact with will understand them. When we ask for them, they will show up in a way that we're going to understand them. So Michael's energy is very distinctive. And I see the angels a lot of times, first the color comes in that I know as their calling card. So I don't necessarily see them with things as their calling card, like the horn for Gabriel or the sword for Michael, but I do understand their vibration very well, and I do see them. I have seen them as if they're standing right in front of me, but usually I see them somewhere in my mind's eye, because what's happening is I'm traveling the different dimensions all at the same time, which is, we all can do that and we can all learn that. But that's the way that the angels present themselves to me. Now, when I was a child and I would see them, I would just see them like angels. They were flying in the sky, they had wings, all of this type of thing. And that's how I saw them. Mostly I knew they were angels because of the light that would come from them. And then there's other things besides angels, and the light that comes from them isn't always so bright. I'm just going to say that. So it's from the vibrations more than necessarily the outline, or that they look like a person, or they're a man with wings. And I've learned through all the years that the angels will appear to you in however you're going to accept them. Many people believe angels are just light beings or orbs of light, so they will show up to those people in that manner. Some people believe they're people with wings, they'll show up that way. Some people believe they're just people that show up, like spiritual helpers, they'll show up that way. But I do understand from working with them for so long, angels definitely have a different vibration than, say, a spirit guide or an ancestor, in that a spirit guide or ancestor, especially if they've lived on the earth or had physical bodies at some point, they feel a little denser, a little heavier. And I'm using English to describe it because sometimes these things are very hard to describe in words. And angels definitely feel a little lighter. They also feel warm. They seem to change temperature a little bit to the warmer side, and not always very distinctively warmer, but just sometimes it's just a little bit. And then I know it's an angel that has entered, and they kind of have a calling card as they come in. So they come in a little bit with warmth, they'll come in with color, and then I will actually see them take form. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And out of curiosity, are you in any way familiar with the war that Archangel Michael went through? I'm drawing a blank on the time frame, but it was several 100,000 years ago, I believe, between Archangel Michael and his subordinate angels, and Archangel Michael's alter ego, so to speak, Lucifer, in that war. And there was an interesting period of time where, like maybe about a year ago, I would say, I was actually in many of the YouTube videos I was listening to, I was actually hearing that brought up, that battle, and I was thinking maybe the reason this is coming up to me is because this is a very significant event that the creator wants me to do a little more research on. So I brought it up on some of my shows with some of my guests at around that time, and I guess I might as well bring it up with you because you deal with the angels. Are you in any way, can you have give us any history lesson on that battle that was said, the war in heaven between Archangel Michael and Lucifer and their subordinates, and what it resulted in as a result of that battle for us and the rest of consciousness in the cosmos and the universe?
Okay, well, I've thought a lot about this. I understand, my understanding of this, of the battle and different aspects of metaphysical and esoteric teachings, may be a little different than other people's understandings. And it's not that Michael had subordinates, of course. It was more that there's the great creator, and Lucifer really warred more about that man was being created and did not want to serve man, which man was created after angels. And that's why the war broke out. When the war occurred and Michael threw Lucifer out of heaven, or wherever it is that they were, because there's many different dimensions of heaven, it's said that Lucifer was given the earth as his domain, and then it's man's choice to follow good or evil. That battle is constantly being waged within each person, that good and evil battle. It is it coming back? A lot of people have been talking about, they feel that there's hell on earth. You know, earth is hell, it's not heaven. Although with the teachings and the different spiritual beings that I've worked with, it's more that it's your depiction of it or your understanding of it or your attitude towards it. Doesn't mean that's not what's here. We have both heaven and hell here on earth. And your attitude or where you put your focus and your energy is going to determine if your life is heaven or your life is hell. Because there's many people that go through hell and still are kind of happy. And there's people that have lives that others would consider well blessed, and those people are going through hell, whether through their own thoughts or sometimes depression, things of that nature, mental illness or physical illness or something along those lines. So it is, I've read a lot on that war, and that is just a war that seems to come out of certain belief systems, like many things that are out there metaphysically. But it seems like it's not a war that's finished yet.
Interesting how it's not finished yet. And well, okay. And I'd like to switch gears for a moment and talk about the what was going on at that metaphysical center on Bristol Pike that you frequent, that I've been to a couple times. Interestingly, after I asked Daniel Teague of Vegas Star Healings to scan the place for negative energies, he detected rather decent amount of negative energy, as well as a negative energy portal and some sort of a negative spirit entity, and he was willing to clear them all if I paid him the little extra to do all that. I have no reason to think the guy is a fraud, and I've heard only positive things about him. And I mean, if he was faking all this stuff, he would have received lots of bad karma a long time ago and probably been in prison for all the theft he's been doing. But that hasn't happened, so he seems to be genuine, and he did clear it all. And you actually, I believe, I don't know if it was you or someone else there, said you were actually aware of that portal. Do you know what that portal was? What exactly was it? How are you aware of it? And was it as a result of you guys, maybe the portal and the negative energy and the spirit, or could it actually have been some of the other businesses that were actually present in that same building?
Well, an interesting fact is the history of the building. So the building originally was a sanitarium. So there definitely has been a lot of different energies through and around that building. Absolutely. There also are other businesses in there. So if there was, and wherever you go, there's going to be some negativity. There's no place that's perfectly clear of negativity. Because if there's people going in and out, just like people's moods, minds, whatever change, the vibrations are going to change. So there's definitely some interesting vibes going on in that building, not necessarily in our space, because we do clear the space, and you were so kind to come in and notice different energies around the building and to clear all of that. So I would say that most of it was from past energies that were deposited there, because wherever we go, we leave a little bit of energy, and a decent psychic will be able to pick that up. They'll be able to walk into a place and pretty much decipher the different people that had been there. Maybe not by name and looked like this, but they'd be able to say, oh, there was a male person here that had suicidal thoughts, or there was a female here who was sending a lot of love to the building. We leave a bit of our energy all around. So considering the history of the building, no surprise, I don't believe there's been any other spiritual people in the building, like our group or our space, to keep clearing it. I do notice that the energy of the building has lightened up a bit since we've been there. But basically, some of that negativity definitely is from past things that had gone on there. This was in the very early 1900s. The building is over 100 years old.
Thank you. And well, unfortunately, doing that thing, that noble deed I decided to do, because I wanted to go there on a regular basis. I figured it would only help me and other people to have Daniel Teague do that. However, doing that on some other places hasn't been so happy joy for, well, some other people apparently who've decided to take it the wrong way and take it out on me in some cases. Better not name names at the moment, but there was this place in Northeast Philly that I did the same thing on shortly before I wanted to go there for an event that I wanted to see to channel or talk with or communicate with deceased loved ones. And when I contacted the person that day, I was going to plan to go down there and told them, hey, I'm happy to report all your place has been cleared of negative energies because I paid Daniel Teague of Vegas Star Healings to do it. Hope this helps you. The next thing I know, I get a message from her saying, you're banned from this place for all eternity because you should have asked for permission. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Hit me like a ton of bricks. This is what I get for doing a noble deed like this and taking money out of my pocket for it. It was actually brought to my attention by Daniel Teague that person who banned me is probably courting other people who go down there because it's a she, has a negative entity that's hijacked her auras, which is blocked all her chakras, hijacked her aura in the process, and is courting other people when she holds events there. So in a sense, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that I got banned from there because I probably would have put myself in danger of being courted, and so are some other people. However, it hasn't been as bad in some other cases, but still, people seem to have pessimistic attitudes about this. This place in Newtown that I had Daniel T. clear, the person who runs that place seemed like kind of cool with it, but it's another she, insisted that I give her Daniel Teague's website so she could communicate with him and give him an earful of sorts, asking him how could he do this? How did he detect things? Because she was kind of in disbelief over the fact that he detected as many negative energies that he did, and also a portal and a negative spear too, just like at your place. When she has said she's brought many shamans and healers to clear the place out, she couldn't believe that it was as high as it was. She also seemed to have a little bit of a problem that he was able to do something like this without asking for permission from her. Didn't take that out on me. He seemed to take it out on him. And I tried to explain to her, well, okay, here's the deal. Everything at a spiritual level is one infinite consciousness. So we're all connected. So he has the ability to do it from that standpoint, if that makes sense. And also, he's doing this from a standpoint of love and help. So it's basically no different than someone sending love energy from their heart chakra to a starving child in a war-torn third world country. Am I right? And she was like, well, I figured you'd give that excuse, but this is kind of different. There are boundaries, without explaining what those boundaries were. And so Daniel Teague hasn't said anything to me about whether or not she contacted him or not. Hopefully she did have a change of heart and decide, I'm not gonna bitch about this. I'd be a total jerk if I did. This was a blessing and I should be happy about it. But not only that, he also cleared out the theater that just so happened to be next door to the place free of charge, because he noticed that the theater was teeming and infested with negative energies, and he figured that they would probably seep into the place easily if he cleared it. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to clear the theater free of charge because, well, it makes sense to do that. And well, what can you maybe explain to me why some people have pessimistic attitudes about this? I mean, I'm sure you would tell me you're going to have to ask them, but then again, there are reasons why people think like this, like not just why they would not like that something is done to them in this way, resist what's good for them, but also get the idea that they think Daniel Teague has got to be a fraud because he couldn't do this without asking for permission.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready for me to talk? Sorry. Yeah. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say is it goes back to that war that you were talking about before, and it has to do with free will and allowing people to have their free will. So when everybody's territorial in some way, and the spiritual community, now there's some that believe you don't need to ask permission, but there's others that believe you do need to ask permission if you're sending healing, if you're doing anything. And that's, I think, what you've come up against. So a lot of people, all of us, we think that, well, I've done this great work and my space is clear and it's clean and I do all this work to keep it clear. How can you come in and tell me that it's not? And so their guard goes up. That is totally understandable. It happens everywhere, not just in metaphysical uh, conditions. And understand that we are human, even though we're multidimensional beings in human bodies. We still have a lot of humanity within us, and our humanity is territorial and says, wait a minute, you didn't ask if you could do this to my place. This is mine. So going back to the free will thing, it's suggested that people be respectful of the free will of others. I believe it's Buddhism believes you do not even open the door for someone who may be on crutches, because the crutches are part of their life learning, part of that soul's journey, and you can be interrupting that journey by opening the door for them and making things a little bit easier. So even for that, it's understood. You can say, would you like me to open the door for you? And they'll say, sure, open the door. Basically, that's what you're coming up against, where if you don't go in and say, hey, do you mind if I do this? Give them the chance first. Do you mind if I do this? Probably okay, I can't assume because that makes an ass of you and me, right? I would hope that people would say, sure, send the positive energies. Because basically, just like you say, we're all connected. If everybody's intent, and this has to be everybody's intent, all the people involved, if their intent is for positive energies, it can't hurt. But if your intent is not that way, if your intent is, I don't want to go into this place because I think it might be negative, even though it seems pretty positive, and I'm going to make sure it's okay for me, the person on the other side is saying, well, I want to make sure my place is okay for me. There's a little bit of a butting of heads. There's a little bit of my will versus thy will, your will and my will. So you go back to that battle. What's the battle? The battle is actually a battle of wills. And that's what you're battling there. The best thing to do is, there's plenty of people who'll be happy to have these things done. And there's people that are unhappy. Because it makes you uncomfortable for these people that are unhappy with it, stay away from them. If people are happy with the work that you're willing to do for them and the gifts that you're willing to give to them, go with those people. Because that's the way it really works. Like attracts like, no matter how you put it. Like energies are going to be drawn to like energies. And if you're seen as a negative, there's going to be someone around that sees you as a positive. There's no two ways about that. So when we work together and we respect each other's wishes by asking first, we create an entirely different world, and we stop that war of the wills from going on and continuing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and thank you for you were pointing out that it does in fact go back to that war. I've never actually heard anybody mention that is a reason, and the fact that it's still going on in the present day is evidence for that. So let's get to a more positive thing here about the. I guess I'll give you the chance to make a little bit of a sales pitch out of this. The angel retreat days, things that you offer. I guess explain how these things are done, and I guess the best way for me to ask you to do this is compare and contrast the ones with there's schedule your angel messages prep work, and there's guardian angels, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, and Archangel Uriel. Those also just happen to be the four archangels that are for 7 days each, and carry Samuel's 28 days with the archangels that I use as my secret weapon whenever I come across a month that's astrologically or numerologically expected to be challenging, I go use that 28-day thing with the archangels to try to counter any negative or unpleasant things that may result with that month's horoscope. So it's these same four archangels. So I'd like you to compare and contrast the work dealing with them in the angelic messages thing, and also the guardian angels as well. Compare and contrast them with the other four archangels you have here.
Okay. So, uh, the way I understand it, every person has a guardian angel, one angel that's only attached to your soul, not to your life, to your soul. Helps you through all your lives. Whether you're living on Earth, you're living on Mars, you're living wherever, you're living in a different dimension, doesn't matter. The angel is there to help you. The archangels help everybody. They are not unique to only one person. The retreat days that I hold are geared at teaching people, and I hold also psychic healer retreat days and angelic healer retreat days. There's a bunch of different things that we offer, and it's all geared at helping people to bring out their innate metaphysical, spiritual, intuitive talents and begin to actually use them to help their lives become better, to be able to practice it. I am not God's gift of angels to everybody. And I truly believe, just like they say, if you give a man a fish, he eats one day. If you teach him the fish, he can eat the rest of his life. I believe that I can give you a reading, but if I teach you how to be able to do this for yourself, you're going to have those tools forever. And you're going to have that. It's kind of an advantage over life because we live basically as our physical selves. But when we add the other aspects of life, which are all around us, and we're all connected to every dimension, every being, whether it's that plant, animal, person, when we can pull that together, we're much happier people. We're much happier beings here. And we understand more of how things work together. So the guardian angels are specific to a person. The archangels help everybody. And then there's all these other angels out there that also help bring messages. Now, people receive different guides and different angels as they go through life, depending on what they're learning. So if let's say you're an accountant, like I was, so I had an accounting angel helping me with accounting. And then when I got out of accounting and moved into doing spiritual work, I gained a different angel to come and help me. When my hobby was sewing, I had a sewing angel. When I got out of sewing and went into jewelry making, I got a jewelry making angel. It's the same thing. We also get guides. If people understood how much help we have from the other side, they would never feel lonely. And they would work with these angels and guides because they have a little bit more power than we do in many ways, but they cannot interfere with our free will. And these workshops are geared to help people get in connection with that, to get in contact with their angels and guides, to get in contact with their own higher self, with their own soul, with understanding their own mission. And so we run them once a month. I'm getting ready to finish up this year's bunch of angel workshops. And next year we'll have a whole new slew of them with a bunch of different topics as we go along. This year we've done each of the archangels a different time. We're working on the 9 choirs of angels, which is different levels of angels, tomorrow actually all day. And next year we'll be moving into more of working with the angels to help each other. This year is about helping yourself. Next year will be about helping each other. Does that answer your questions there?
Yeah, although I'd like to get into what each of the archangels do for those listeners that are unfamiliar with this. That's why I say compare and contrast. So if you can maybe give a little rundown of what also one specific guardian angel, what parts of your life will they get involved in if do you have to ask them, or are there times where you may not ask and they think the situation is dire, for lack of a better word, enough for them to get involved? and also Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, what each angel is good for, and also what they're, well, I'm sure a lot of angels are good at a lot of things, but is it, dare I say, angels are not good at something? You wouldn't call this angel in if you wanted to do this, so, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, your guardian angel helps you with everything, but you do need to ask for the help because there is no angel that will interfere with your free will. However, the archangels may interfere with your free will when you are imposing that on someone else to stop that from going to the other person. For example, these are things that we've seen, and you can YouTube it all over the place, especially in Europe and other countries, that someone's walking across the street and the car's supposed to hit them, and somehow the car doesn't hit them. Physically, you see it. You see the car's coming, somehow the person doesn't get hit. That's an angelic intervention, where the person has been moved out of the way. You'll read, they'll say, oh, I felt these hands lift me, or I felt myself being pushed, or something along those lines. Somehow the car swerved and just missed me. That's when the person that's driving may have one intent, but that's not part of your will. That's not part of your life contract. You did not agree to that. And the angel can intervene at that point for you. As you say, those are dire situations where an angel will intervene. But mostly, none of the angels will intervene if you do not ask for help. So you want to know what each of them do. Guardian angel helps you with everything in your life, specifically helps you. Archangel Michael helps with your battles, whether they are physical battles, emotional battles, if they're mental battles, if they're spiritual battles. That's what he's known for. Archangel Raphael helps with everything in your physical life. His story is in the Catholic Bible, only in the Catholic Bible, as the book of Tobit. And you can read, he helps young Tobias find his love, find his work, find his inheritance, meet lost family members, all of these different things, heal people. And that's what Raphael does. He's known as medicine of God. Gabriel is known as the announcer. He also is an angel that helps you with new beginnings and with endings. He brings in souls and he takes souls away. He's the angel that helps the souls get into the bodies and helps them leave the bodies. He is considered an angel of the moon. He's very good for if you have something new you want to start or something you need to finish. Then let's see, we did Michael, Raphael. Uriel helps with your placement on earth and with your knowledge, learning whatever it is you need to learn to be able to move forward in your life. And those four angels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel, are considered watchers of the earth. They watch over the four quadrants, or corners of the earth, so to speak, even though the earth is round, split into north, south, east, and west. And they help generally. They can help you specifically in your personal life if you ask them. You need to ask them. But understand that sometimes the answer is no. But they seem to carry a little more power, and they have been seen by more people in specific manners. Again, as I said, Michael is noticed in 7 of the 12 major religions. Raphael, I think, is in 5. Gabriel's is 4 or 6. I don't remember exactly. Uriel is pretty much set with Christians and Judaism, but he also has been noted throughout history. So those angels are pretty well known, and they help with those major things. So if you think of Michael as the warrior, Raphael as the healer, Gabriel as the announcer, new beginnings and endings, and Uriel as the Google Maps, that's the way they work with each of us.
Thank you. And is there any truth to the idea that there are times where if you're doing something or trying to do something and you don't really need to ask angels to help you. No additional help is really needed for you to do what you have to do. You made it clear that they will sometimes will not help you for whatever the reason. But if you keep asking your angels over and over and over again for help in areas where it's not really needed, is there any truth that you're actually creating bad karma for yourself in some way by doing that, because you're downplaying your own abilities?
Absolutely not. There's
Well,
no truth in that at all. You can ask as often as you want. There's nothing wrong with that. There's an old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. There is nothing wrong. You cannot ask too often. Now, if you just want to understand that sometimes, again, the answer is going to be no. Asking doesn't mean you're going to get what you ask for. Sometimes by asking, the angels will step in and help you to understand that maybe that's not for you. Maybe this is for you, or show you a better path. So asking, there's nothing wrong with asking, and you don't create bad karma by asking. Bad karma is usually, or negative influences are usually when you're really working on forcing your will upon something. That's where most bad things come from, based on your decision making. There's other bad things that just happen because it's life. But as far as your will, if you're asking, that doesn't create more bad karma for you. It doesn't mean that you're negating your personal power, because part of our power is learning to ask for help and being able to accept help. Just as you're learning with when you offer to have Daniel Teague clear people's places.
thank you for clarifying that. I'd like to get back to the 9 choirs thing about the number 9. It's the number of completion. It's why 9 deep breaths. Why is 9 the magic number when doing deep breaths? To number of deep breaths you should take to calm down. It seems that 9 helps more than 8 or 10. Well, one reason they say is the number of completion. At least that's what metaphysics people say. And regarding what the phrase the 9 with the word the before it, there seems to be at least 2 different groups where that could pertain to. Ancient Aliens had a episode about the 9 and what it could be in ancient astronaut theory. Magenta Pixie also communicates with beings that are of higher version of herself, I believe she asserted, that are known as the white-winged collective consciousness of 9. And the Book of Man documentaries that can be seen on Vimeo, I interviewed the guy who made those. There was a bunch of programs in that series talking about entities known as the 9, but they were depicted as being of a malevolent nature in that series. And it was said, among other things, Alexander the Great was trying to stop them in his quest to travel the world eastward from Greece. So there's several different groups here. I'm sure they're not all the same, but what is it about the 9 phenomenon regarding entities and creatures and whatnot that has, among other things, caused an Ancient Aliens episode about the subject? How does that tie into the 9 choirs thing that you do, if it does at all?
Okay, well, no, it really doesn't. The 9 choirs are a specific way that people have determined the dimensions of angels and the different types of angels that are out there. And they call them choirs because angels are known to sing, so they call them choirs. 9 different levels. But you bring up a very interesting point, because 9 definitely is the point of change, the point where things change. So when you go through 9 of anything, or you have a group of 9, or you're doing your 9 breaths or 90 breaths or 90 times or whatever you're doing, 9 specifically carries a vibration of change, and that's why people do it. When you study the many different methods and belief systems that are out there. For example, there's different ones. Ho'oponopono is a breathing that helps with healing, and you can do 7 sets or you can do 9 sets. There are different groups of aliens or spiritual beings that only have 6 or 7 people in their group, not necessarily 9. 9's considered a higher vibration because it transcends, it transmutes, it turns it into change. It takes whatever there was and changes it and brings it into all brand new. That's the difference with 9. But the 9 choirs is basically just 9 different types of angels that are out there. And most all angels fall into one of those choirs. And that's what I'll be teaching about tomorrow.
Thank you. And well, since you're talking about angels and the dimensions or densities, whatever term you want to use to describe the places they come from, could you maybe to some degree actually give out a layout? I'm sure this would take forever to talk about the layout if it's really, really complex and whatnot, but can you maybe give a nice little bridge version of your understanding of what the nature of consciousness could be described as? But before I do that, though, just want a quick little interesting bit of information. It seems that when it comes to the number of dimensions or densities, well, first of all, interesting fact that some people say dimension and density are the same thing. Others say they're two different terms that mean different things entirely. And to make confuse even further, the difference between dimension and density is not set in stone. There's different explanations for what that difference is, which kind of leads me to believe that nobody knows what they actually mean or could be defined as. But other than that, no, it also seems like nobody knows definitively how many dimensions or densities there are because there's different interpretations of it. However, 2 prominent camps seem to be a 12-dimensional camp and a 22-dimensional camp. And in my interview with George Kavasilis way back in the day, he's of a 12-dimensional camp, but he did explain to me that he could imagine that some people may see a area in his 12-dimensional construct that could be thought of as 12 dimensions in one, which could explain the 22-dimensional camp. But he does not see it as 10 in 1. He sees it as just one for whatever the reason. You have to go back to that interview to see exactly what he said. It was a while back, 2013, what we're talking. But with that being said, do you have anything to say about this regarding what you can interpret about the way the cosmos, the dimensions of consciousness is constructed based on your understanding of the angels and how they work with them?
Okay, well, aside from the angels, my understanding is that humans have 9 different levels or 9 different dimensions that we are constantly working in and out of. Beyond those 9 levels, then you move up into other levels and higher levels. My understanding is there's more than 22 different dimensions or levels or however it is that, or densities that as you want to, or as people explain it. My personal experience is that there's many more than that. It goes way beyond 22. And maybe we can't comprehend it all as humans. And even the advanced humans cannot truly comprehend everything that's out there because it goes well beyond our galaxy, our universe, into many other galaxies, other universes. And it is, when I travel the dimensions, there's just so many of them. And many of the aliens, the angels, the beings that work with us are on certain dimensions and they're closer to us because it's easier for them to get to us and for us to get to them and to work with them. But there's some that are even beyond all of that, the ones that we understand. When we're looking at dimensions, it takes a well-practiced metaphysicist to be able to travel beyond the 9 levels of our human being, or the 9 dimensions of our human being or humanity. And even when we get to the top of those 9 levels, there is a bit of joined consciousness there but the true oneness goes way beyond that. So it goes even maybe into 30, I've seen 32 or mention of 33 different dimensions before we're all into the area where we're all one, or the collective consciousness. There's also a consciousness only of Earth. Then there's a consciousness that goes beyond Earth into our other lives on other planets, in other galaxies, in other universes. And then even beyond that to living that was strictly on other dimensions, well beyond the dimensions that we understand are outside of our dimension on Earth now. When we talk about Lemuria, when we talk about Atlantis, those living through those different, I'm going to say eras, living at those times, we were totally aware of the multi-dimensions that we were living in. We were very multidimensional, and it was not as dense as we are here, as we are right now. So it seems like we're, with the awakenings, we're starting to go back and come out of just being these dense peoples on this dense planet, and expanding to understand and incorporate all the other dimensions and galaxies and aliens and beings and everything that is all part of the one. We're not there yet, but we're going to be moving there. That's part of human evolution, is to go back to being our higher selves, and then even beyond our higher selves, because our higher selves are on our ninth level. So for your question about the 12 or 22, I'm going to say that there's many more than that.
Fair enough. But regarding the humans are on use 9 regarding number of dimensions, well, that would have to go beyond Earth, I would think, because it's been said that Earth, by Andrew Bartus, the Akashic Records reader, was created as a 7-dimensional seed planet. And one of the significances behind that is that once you get to the 7th dimension, service to self is non-existent. It's strictly service to others. Even in the 6th dimension, which is much more wonderful than anyone could ever imagine, heaven-like, if you will, there's still some degree of service to self behavior by the entities there. But in the 7th dimension, that is not the case. So one could make the case that Earth was created as a place for entities to learn how to become service to others' entities. And if we're to believe that humans can go up to the 9th dimension, then, well, that raises the question, well, okay, if we ascend past that on Earth, where are we going? If we make it clear to our creator gods that we're worthy of moving to 8th and beyond, if you get my drift. So does any of this stuff about Earth being a 7-dimensional seed planet to learn how to become service to others make sense to you? And how do we make sense of what lies beyond that if we're not going to be able to be on Earth anymore if we transcend 7D?
Okay. I'm going to say no, that it's not 7-dimensional unless you actually, and I haven't read that. So I'm not aware of that. I'm only speaking from my personal experience. We just finished a 9 levels course, and the first 2 dimensions or first 2 levels reside within our physical body. So that could shorten it and make it, if people are counting the first level as physical and emotional or something like that altogether, whereas I see and have learned that that's 2 separate dimensions or 2 separate levels. But the 9 would make more sense than 7, just even though people are like, well, there's 7 days in a week, there's 7 planets that we're always working with. There's actually, if you look at astrology, there's 12. So just from looking at astrology and looking at our galaxy, there has to be a minimum of 12. Minimum of 12. Because otherwise, none of it would make sense. The 7 days, the 7 planets, all of that, when we're looking at, really, we base a lot on 12. And again, this is also only one type of teaching. Just as in religion, there's so many different religions, and they're all different teachings, and some of them totally contradict each other. It doesn't mean that they're all wrong or that they're all right, that there's any one right answer or there's any specific wrong answer. What I've been shown is that each person lives literally in their own universe. And we are going through many different things. So when we're looking at the dimensions and we're looking at the different levels and we're looking at different densities, it depends on that soul's path or journey, or however you want to look on that, at what's going to be revealed. Things are revealed in small increments. So maybe everybody can agree that there's at least 7. Some people think there's 9. Some people think there's 32. However it's seen. Does it mean it's wrong if we can only prove up to 7 dimensions? If that seems to be the general consensus, does that mean that it's wrong that there's 9? Not necessarily. It just may not have been discovered yet or explained yet for folks to understand and for enough people to grasp to move into that. Am I making any sense?
Absolutely. In fact, that kind of goes back to what I said earlier about there being different camps of people depending on your own personal construct. Even George Kavaslis, when I confronted him in a radio show that I called into that he was speaking on and asked him why the contradiction regarding numbers dimensions, he actually said it's unfair to categorize someone based on what number of dimensions they acknowledge there are or believe there are, because the constructs can be different regarding point of view. It's a point of view issue, and truth depends on point of view, as Kenobi told Skywalker in Star Wars. Skywalker asked him, "Why'd you lie to me about Vader murdering my father?" Well, he didn't lie, but anyhow, I'm digressing. Getting back to some of the other stuff that you talk about. Comparing and contrasting guardian angels with spirit guides. It said they're not one and the same. There is a difference. And Cryon, and I do recall actually discussing this with you during one of the first time I think I ever went to your place at an open house that you guys did. You're one of the speakers, and I asked you about this question directly. Well, I must ask it again, or enlighten this interview regarding what Cryon has asserted, that spirit guides, he says, they're not what you think. It's wrong to think of them as just random different parts of consciousness that have just been put out there to get you on the right path. No. The proper way to think of them, well, first of all, you have to wake up to the fact that you are infinite. And once you realize that you are infinite and everything is a reflection of you, consequently a part of you, then you have to realize that your spirit guides are you. And he explained in a very complex way that it's a shame I don't remember exactly what the YouTube video was titled where he talks about this, because it was very enlightening. But he basically said, as your soul enters this reality on Earth, it breaks up into, I guess, spirits. This could be thought of as a difference between soul and spirit, if that makes sense. And these spirit guides are a part of you that broke off from your soul, just like this body that you're in and have an experiencing in is a part of you that is having an experience. The important thing is it's a part of you. Okay, does that make sense? And could you maybe explain the science behind how this works a little better than some higher level consciousness entity like Cryon, who some people really can't make sense of, because he, while trying to explain it to humans, still has to go from a high level consciousness standpoint, because that's what he is, and he's only got a human channel to help him communicate that. So can you make sense of this, what he's talking about here, saying spirit guides are you, and they've been divided as they've incarnated, your soul has, into this reality?
Well, if you just go back to the basics that we're all one, then of course our spirit guides are us, and you are me, and I am you, and we're all God, and we're all Archangel Michael, and we're all of it because we're all one, meaning that we're all parts of it anyway. That the your spirit guides are pieces of you. I will say that's a very interesting concept, but having dealt specifically with different people's guides and guides that have walked the earth, unless you're looking at specifically, we're all one. So then, yes, everybody is us and we are everybody and everything. Many people have the same guide. Many people have the same angel helping them because you'd have to put angels into there too. Because if we have angels helping us, we have spirit guides helping us, we have ancestors helping us. If we're all one, we are all them, they are all us. But if it was us being split into different spirit guides, then the same, I'm going to talk about St. Padre Pio because I know I see him as guides for many people. A lot of times he'll show up for people. That would mean that I was him and he is me, but he lived during my time. So, and it could be because there's different beliefs that there's only a certain amount of souls and all the souls are split into shards, which is kind of what you're saying. And only that many souls will ever be. And yes, we're all infinite. You can feel that if you ever take some time, you would to really look inside yourself, you would understand that you are infinite, you are giant, you're much bigger than the little body that you're in. But if we were broken up in that sense, then we go back to you have to be me and I have to be you because my guide is also your guide. So if it's part of me, then I'm part of you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I certainly understand it more so than anyone who's lost in the Matrix would understand it, but it still is kind of complicated, especially trying to make sense of the comparing and contrasting when trying to make sense of what the difference would be between an archangel and a guardian angel and a spirit guide and how they are in some degree all part of us because we're infinite, but the mechanism by which they have divided into something else that's part of the same collective is what gets really complicated. But one might say don't try to wrap your head around it. Einstein's quote about don't worry about your difficulties understanding mathematics, I can assure you that mine are still greater. Well, basically the same idea. You can't understand this. There's always more and more and more to understand. Even quantum physicists have discovered that. And some have made the argument you shouldn't obsess about quantum physics too much because in the end, that's the physics behind how the third dimension of consciousness works. And if you obsess about it too much, you're going to stay trapped in the third dimension. Don't get me wrong, it's an interesting science, but you have to at some point be willing to move on from it because there's so much more. And you really, because
Exactly.
it's infinite, there is no limit. Still, it's fun to learn, and that's why I am the host of Nature of Reality Radio because I think nobody has a more difficult time understanding reality than I do. Albert Einstein, eat your heart out. Um, so moving on to some other things here. Now the retreats that you do, it's very great that you do something like that. Might as well give you another chance to make a little bit of a sales pitch out of some of these retreats and what you do and how they work and how the things that are give us the science behind how they benefit people. Now,
Okay.
the price may be a little bit of a problem looking at some of the prices here. I'm not going to give the price out on the show. You can do that if you want, but some of the other retreats that I've gone to have been of a little bit of a cheaper price. So with all due respect to you, and I understand you got to make a living, if it's going to be a little cheaper and I can do the research and I can get the same out of it, and it's maybe a little closer distance, that may be the one I want to go to and not one of these. But hey, hopefully someday that'll change and I'll get to go on one of these retreats with you to see you somewhere other than that place on Bristol Pike. So, what does each retreat entail? How does it work? And how does it help people? Give us the science behind what you do and how it helps them. You got the floor.
Okay. The retreats that I hold, the away retreats, because we do have day retreats, the away retreats and the weekend retreats that are away, they begin on Friday evenings after dinner. So it gives everybody plenty of time to get there, but you want to be there so that you wake up refreshed on Saturday and ready to jump into whatever we're doing. The retreats that I don't know what's listed on the website, but I've been doing retreats for well over 20 years, closer to probably 25 years. And the retreats have different topics depending on what's happening in the world at that time, and also what they, being the guides that talk to me, the angels, whoever's talking to me, tell me to teach at the time. So for 2020, I have 4 different retreats. The first one's going to be in Florida. It's a little pricey. We're staying at a spa. It's going to be pricey. And it will be specifically, that one I believe is working with your angels. It's an angel retreat. We always do an angel retreat in February. We do a shore retreat in September. We do different retreats. We've done retreats on sacred geometry. We've done retreats on working with your guides. We've done past life retreats. We've done mediumship retreats. They're always different, but they run basically Friday night, all day Saturday, half day Sunday, because people want to get home Sunday night for dinner. When you come to a retreat, as I said, Friday nights meet and greet, we usually do a meditation that evening. Sometimes people stay up all night talking because we're so excited to meet each other and talk about what we know together. Sometimes people are exhausted, they go right to bed. You never know what Friday night's going to entail. On Saturday is the bulk of the work, meaning it's pretty intensive with lecture, workshops, interactions. There's a lot of meditating that goes on. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of information that's given out. Everybody gets private personal readings, whoever comes on retreat. We also, on Sunday, everybody gets a personal healing before they head home. So there's a lot of work that's involved in it. We have a morning and an afternoon session. Sometimes there's 3 sessions on a Saturday. But the retreats, as I said, are geared to what's going on in the world at this time, what vibrations are around everybody, what's the world vibrations, not necessarily only certain people's vibrations. I have noticed through the years that for the different retreats, very often the people that come on retreat, there's a common thread. One time it was all single moms. One time it was a bunch of entrepreneurs. One time there were people that had specific family problems. It always seems different, but there always seems to be some sort of a common thread. The purpose of the retreat is to help you, basically, no matter what the topic is, the purpose of these retreats is to help you to reconnect with your true self and to receive any healing that you need. So it offers you some downtime or me time that people need. It also helps you connect with your higher or infinite self. And it helps you to connect with whatever spirit guides. Sometimes we do angels, sometimes we do guides, but I'm always working with the angels. So you can bet an angel's going to show up on any retreat that I give. But basically to help you to recenter yourself, make yourself that whole person that you were created to be. Acknowledge your brightest light, which is your true self, the one that a lot of us like push down or hide as we're going through our lives because we have to survive on this earth. And hopefully go home feeling a little better. That's basically the retreats. As for the prices, if you do a lot of research on retreats, they're about in line with other places that are out there. There's no hidden cost in mine. There's no that you have to go buy your food. You do not have to pay any extra for lodgings for the away retreats. Everything's included that you could possibly need. There's no add-ons. There's no extra cost if you want a reading or if you want a healing or if you want to do something special while we're on retreat. So I think the prices are fair. The other thing is that, you get what you pay for. That's the way the pricing goes on these. But through the years, they've been fairly popular. We keep them very small. The most people we've ever had, I think, was 10 people on a retreat. Usually there's 6 to 8. I find that's a really good size. Everybody gets a chance to experience what they want to experience on these retreats. When we work with our different angels and our different guides, now angels, as I said, feel warm. Guides will feel actually like people. I mentioned that I see Padre Pio as a guide. I see Edgar Casey as guides for different people. I've seen Sai Baba come in. I see all kinds of different energies come in for people. You connect with them, you get to understand the difference between when it's your thoughts or when you're being divinely guided, divinely any thing that comes through the divine to help you be your brightest, lightest self. And those are the way the retreats work. I try to do the same thing in the day retreats. Of course, it's not as involved, but definitely I hope that everyone walks away feeling more like themselves than they have in a long time, and that they feel a little more connected with all of their levels and their infinite self. And that's about all I have to say about retreats.
Thank you. I've in general been more of a conference guy than a retreat guy, but I've come to the realization in more recent times that sometimes that's kind of not necessarily the way to go if you got a lot of inner work to do. Because going to a conference, you try to change the outer world. You go to a retreat, you try to change the inner part of you. It seems that's one of the major differences. And I have been told I kind of maybe need to focus a little more on retreat stuff. Of course, conferences, they're cheaper than retreats, but that's a good point that you just mentioned that though, that the when you take into account the price of the meals is paid for, the place you stay is paid for. When you go to a conference, that's not the case. You have to pay for the meals in general, and you also have to pay for the lodging. And I guess if you were to add the conference ticket plus all that, it would turn out to be pretty much the same, I'm sure, as a retreat. So with that being, and I never really considered that until now, and that's why I was kind of reluctant to, whenever I saw a retreat and a conference in the same time period, I generally took the conference because it was cheaper. But now that I see it's probably going to be the same price in the end, taking into all these factors, and I need to focus more on inner work, and this goes for anybody else like me who's been told you need to focus more on inner work, then I guess more people need to spend more time going to retreats and less time going to conferences. Not only that, with all the conferences I've been to, a lot of the presentations preach into the choir, and I often find myself looking on the conference schedule and seeing, okay, which of these do I have to go to? This is going to be preaching to the choir, this is going to be preaching to the choir, and it seems like I'm doing a lot more preaching to the choirs than seeing what I got to go to this because it's going to be new information. And of course, all these conferences, if you're patient, you can be sure that it's all going to be uploaded to YouTube at some point or another. Let's just hope it doesn't get kicked off. So that's another thing that's worth considering. So people love see me at conferences. You probably won't see me as much there. I know I'm a great comments activator. I've been told that, but I think the retreats are more important now, especially since inner work seems to be what humanity needs to focus more on, and all this information has been put out there already. And there's no doubt the angels and guides will make sure that the people that need to hear the information will find a way to hear it and direct them to the YouTube video in question. But anyway, I babble and I digress a little bit too much. Let's get to some of these.
It's okay.
Yes.
I do have a comment to make. The way that a lot of people want to change the world, and the way we change it is by working on ourselves and changing ourselves. It's not by giving other people information and, as you said, presenting to a large group, preaching to the choir. I do this, so you should do it too. When we change ourselves, and we change our light and we help ourselves to be our bright selves, we actually assist the world in the change that needs to be made here much more than we do if we run out to tell other people how they need to change. So, and that's why you were saying, sometimes we need some self-work first. Any work you do for yourself, you do for everybody. Anything that you've gone through in your life, you go through for everybody. Anything that you discover that's healing, you discover for everyone that's going through the same situation you're going through. This is where that collectiveness comes in, where we're all one. And this is how change is made, through one person at a time, and that one person is you. And that's why retreats seem to be pretty popular, and people do come away with some really good results.
Thank you for getting that out. Definitely worth considering. So, looking at some of these other things here. Okay, one of the services here, astrological chart. We haven't really talked too much about. I don't think we've talked about it at all, actually, astrology in this interview. But if you know a thing or two about it, I'd like to give you your chance to talk about it. First of all, some have said that it's okay to not look at your horoscope if you're living life to the fullest, because you can ensure that your angels and guides will make sure that your life gets in line with the stars. If you ask your angels and guides, just make sure I'm on the right path, then they're going to make sure that you follow the horoscope. Even if you don't look at it, it's going to play out for you in a positive way, and the potentially negative things that the horoscope says could happen to you, your angels and guides will make sure that doesn't happen. However, the counter argument is, well, you still want to be able to try to expand your own consciousness by doing it yourself, and doing without the angels being trusted to guide you. So it helps to look at the horoscope and see how it goes, and try to maybe think to the horoscope whenever you run into something in your day that's eye-popping or something. Then think about what the horoscope says, and don't be so quick to rely on the angels and guides to make sure it goes the right way. So, which camp in general are you, the proponent or not, I shouldn't say opponent, but someone who's not a proponent, I guess, of astrology?
Okay, well, like I said, I learned all that stuff. I studied astrology for a few years. And what I've learned about astrology is that all the Leos are not all Leos. You have many planets, asteroids, and many aspects in your chart. So your general Leo, I'm a Leo, by the way, your general Leo horoscope may not fit for you, because maybe your sun is in Leo and you have 3 planets in Virgo, so you're really more of a Virgo, or you have 3 planets in Capricorn or Scorpio or whatever. So unless you're truly aware of your chart personally, you can read those horoscopes and be misled by them. So that's one thing. Astrology is a science, and it's an exact science. So the horoscopes that are out there are very general. Those are the vibrations that are coming down for all the people of that sun sign, but they do not always reflect everybody in that sun sign. I had, when I was a kid, I loved horoscopes. I used to buy them all the time. I used to buy those little roll-up ones for the month. And one time I unrolled it, and on one day it said, "Beware of women in green hats." And I thought, what? What kind of baloney is this, It's just a bunch of BS, which I thought was really, really funny. But basically, it's how you take it. If you read the horoscope with the idea that, okay, this is the vibration that's coming down, I want to be aware of this. This is a part of me because it's your sun sign. It is a part of you. To what degree depends on your entire chart, not just your sun sign. And look at it in the idea that to be forewarned is forearmed is perfect. But we are multidimensional, multi-level, multifaceted people. Your astrology is only one tiny, tiny, tiny bit, just like your angels and guides are one tiny bit. My opinion, this is my opinion only, is that if I can ask angels and guides to help me, it's going to make my life easier. I'm going to learn my lessons faster. I'm going to be able to enjoy more and do more on my journey. I'm asking my angels and guides to help me too. And I definitely look at the horoscope. It's very attractive. I love to read them. I think they're a lot of fun. But unless you have specifically a chart that is done for you, if you've had your chart run and you know where your planets are and you know what your strong sun sign is or the sign to read, when you're reading the horoscopes, they can be a little bit misleading. That's my view on astrology.
Yeah, and well, also another thing, people may be tempted to try to complicate things too much by looking at not just the astrology, but well, the Western astrology and the
Hmm.
sidereal astrology too. I'm a Pisces in sidereal, but an Aries in Western. And also the I've just noticed the website astrologyanswers.com, which I've been looking at my daily Aries horoscope every single day. At the bare minimum, check the daily horoscope, I say, just to go bit by bit every day. That can't go wrong with that. Well, I've noticed they've actually put Chinese horoscopes up now, and I'm a tiger in that. So every day I now look at both the Aries and the tiger. Now, I can't help but think of my one of my it was my first ever radio guest on this show, and also the person I use as another have hired as another administrator for my Nature of Reality Radio Facebook group. Sean Margaret Cohen is like me; she's an Aries, but in Chinese astrology she's a monkey, and in Chinese astrology, tigers and monkeys don't mix. My father's also a monkey, and he and I have had. It's been better in more recent times, but in the past we've not really gotten along there very well. And I think one of the number one primary reasons for that, well, he's a monkey and I'm a tiger, and the two don't mix. In 2016, which was the year of the monkey, was a relatively rough year for me, and I'm sure a lot of other tigers. But I'm digressing here. The one of what I'm trying to get to is that if you're going to look at many different horoscopes, you're bound to come across some sort of a contradiction. And when it comes to, well, this is the first part of my question. I'll get to the second part after I let you answer this. But the first part, when you're coming across contradictions in horoscope and also numerological readings, um, should it be thought of as one horoscope throws a monkey wrench into the other horoscope, or should it be thought of as the horoscope can be used to counter the problems that could be caused by the uh, I don't know how to describe this, but yeah, most people looking at it, the glass half empty, would see it as the horoscopes throw a monkey wrench into each other and are going to complicate things and make things harder for you. But others would say it shouldn't be looked at that way. It should be looked at as the horoscope that seems to suggest the more disturbing thing, the one that suggests the more positive thing, I should say, should be thought of as a way of countering the more depressing or disturbing aspect horoscope, which I guess would be more of a half full approach. So when you see contradictions in astrological and numerological readings, there's so many different examples. It's so variable that we can't really get into every possible example. But how, in general, is there a general consensus rule when dealing with noticing contradictions in horoscopes and numerological readings?
My advice would be that there are many different vibrations coming down to you. And all of them are accurate, just like all the religions are accurate. All these different thoughts are accurate. Just because if it doesn't work for you, it may work for someone else. But specifically for astrology, for numerology, even for tarot, any type of reading that you're looking at, any type of divination that you're looking at, take it in. If you tend to look at all of them, take it all in, and then you have free will. This is where exerting your personal power comes into play. Okay, you know how you said that possibly if we're depending on angels and guides, we're giving up our power, we're not being our true selves. Your true self is making the decision. Your angels and guides can guide you, but they cannot make you do anything. Your astrology, it tells you what type of vibrations are coming down and surrounding you. Do you choose to allow them into your energy field or not? That is totally up to you. Okay, same thing with the numerology. Also, it comes down to interpretation because the person who's interpreting this. Even if it's a computer, you can have 5 different computer programs who are going to interpret the exact same aspects totally differently. So you look at each one, you figure out what works with you or resonates with you, and you go from there. But you make your own decisions on it. Understand that these vibrations are here for everyone. Today, this afternoon, as a matter of fact, we were traveling. We did a little day trip. And one of the people on the trip was saying, oh my gosh, I was feeling all this negative energy that's coming into the world. And she says, but obviously you guys aren't feeling it. It's not true that we weren't feeling it. It was that we approached it in a different manner, using our free will to not necessarily think that, okay, there's this negative energy, so I'm going to feel negative. More of thinking, okay, there's this negative energy coming in. How do I not let it affect me? Do I call Archangel Michael to help me battle this negative energy? Do I ask my guardian angel to give me some clues? Do I look at my horoscope to see, what am I going to do? I do know a funny story. When I was 16, and I was madly in love with someone, and I had my horoscope book, and on this one day, I looked in, and that day was empty. There was nothing written on that day. It was some day in June. So like, let's say June 1st, there was stuff written about June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd, totally empty, nothing there. June 4th, more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. And the empty day was the day that this boy that I was madly in love with told me he decided to start dating somebody else. And I thought, boy, that horoscope book was right. It was empty. It was a terrible day. If you ever see an empty day in your horoscope book, just stay home. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. That's how I interpreted it. So it's really about what you're interpreting, how you are approaching it, because it's your free will. That's the bottom line. These negative vibrations still come in. These positive vibrations still come in. Which one are you going to attach to? Which one are you going to focus on and build more in your energy field? When you see opposing things, they're all right. It's not to say that, oh, this one's always wrong. Definitely there's people that are off with interpretations, but they may be exactly right for other people, just not right for you. So you have to do your own work, which is why I teach people things. Do your own work, figure out what works for you, what makes you your bright light, what resonates, what seems true, and move forward with that.
Right, right. One example that I've often used to make sense of this, in my case anyway, we're in the year of the Earth Pig in the Chinese astrology, and Earth Pig relative to all the other signs in Chinese astrology is actually one of the least compatible for spiritual activity. However, in my horoscope, Jupiter, throughout all this year up until December 10th, December 2nd, is in my ninth house, which reads a good time for spiritual matters. So I don't look at it as the year of the Earth Pig throwing a monkey wrench in my ninth house reading. I look at it as my ninth house Jupiter reading being a way to counter the negative, the not so good for spiritual awakening that the year of the Earth Pig entails. Try to keep that half full aspect to it. But also that thing I mentioned about my one of my fans, Sean Margaret Cohen, being an Aries and a monkey, and I being an Aries and a tiger. We're both going to look at the same horoscope for Aries on astrologyanswers.com, but I can only imagine what the horoscopes for how different the horoscopes for the tiger and the monkey would be. She would be looking at the latter, I the former, and with the tiger and the monkey being mortal enemies in Chinese astrology, one would have to think, well, who's going to have more contradictions with Aries? Or is it not going to be one's going to have more contradictions than the other? It's just going to be that the horoscopes in Chinese astrology will seem completely different, but because they're mortal enemies. However, it's not going to cause any sort of a burden upon the Aries reading. If that makes sense, could you maybe help make sense of something like this? Trying to make sense of people that have the same like sign but different signs in the other form of astrology.
Well, it's just we're all made unique. It's To
That
me, it's
simple, huh?
pretty simple. We're all unique. We all have different facets. We all have different, even you can have the same astrological sign, but some people are born in the first part of it are going to be a little bit of the previous astrological sign and a little bit of the one that they're in. The people in the middle are going to be the true, let's say Aries, are going to be the true Aries. The people at the end are going to be pulling in a little bit of Taurus personalities and as well as Aries. So everybody's totally different. And it's not to confuse you, it's to help you understand the individuality, which is why we came to Earth, so we can be individuals and understand that individuality and not be placed in a box and not be like you're all you Aries, you go over there. You guys got to go live in Russia because that's what matches your astrological sign. It doesn't work like that. You're not just Aries. You've got every one of you have different moons. You may have Jupiter in different places. You may have a different ascendant. There's all different things going on. We're all unique. So rather than see them as conflicting, see them, as you say, the glass half full. It's what makes you unique, what makes your light the way that it is. And that helps us all work together because you guys, as Aries, probably have a lot in common. You, as Chinese astrology, different, you have things that you don't have in common. Does that mean you can't be friends? Of course not. It just means that you have some things that aren't going to match, where you're not going to work.
Well, I guess that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So, okay, what else to talk about here? Prayer list here. Just clicking on that, and oh, this is just people that you generally pray for. Now, well, since you mentioned prayer, I have heard some people say that prayer is, well, that's where the religion brainwashing comes in to prayer, because when you're praying, you're basically in a state of lack. And from a consciousness law of attraction standpoint, that's not what you want to be in. And that's where religion can be thought of as a brainwashing mechanism, where it has its flaws. Not that the religious people can't be good, but that's the flaw. And so prayer is not the proper word to use because it implies
Um,
religion, but you use it anyway. So if you had a better word to use, well, first of all, do you agree or disagree with the idea that prayer implies lack, which is bad from a law of attraction
I
standpoint?
definitely disagree. I
Okay, so
totally disagree. But again, it depends on what you were taught that prayer is or how you understand prayer. Prayer is a word to describe um, communication with higher beings or with the divinity. Okay. And it doesn't always mean that there's a lack because there's plenty of prayers that are just prayers of joy, no lack at all. There are prayers that are just being grateful, thankful, not for lack, but for abundance. There are prayers that are said for other people. So I agree that the word prayer may have a bad connotation because most people think that it's a specific um, words that you say over and over. There's so many different connotations of the word prayer. But if you think of it as it's just communicating with divinity, it's a whole different ballgame. We have a prayer list because there are people that need help. And the prayer, people understand the word prayer. Oh, these people want help. The prayer list specifically is for people that need help in some area of their lives. We know that when there's more than one working on something, if there's two people trying to help something, sending well wishes, hoping that healing occurs, any of that, sending positive vibrations, that the healing is going to occur much quicker. The change is going to occur quicker. all of this is going to happen, because when we work in a group, we're more powerful. So the prayer list specifically is because people ask to be put on it. They ask, they know that our group does healings. There's people in all different at the different centers and throughout the world, actually, that look at that list and will pray for these people, though they have no clue who they are. It doesn't matter. They're just trying to send good energy in a place where maybe there is some lacking. So in that case, for that prayer list, absolutely, those people are lacking in some way. There's something they feel that they need in their lives, and we put them on the prayer list. But prayer as itself isn't necessarily bad. It's a communication. It's a way to communicate.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, you mentioned earlier, at the beginning of the interview, you have some experience dealing with remote viewing. And I noticed connecting Mind, Body, and Soul page here on the KarenAngelsRetreats.com site. There's a psychic page in addition to the Angels and Healing page. There's a psychic page here and psychic healer workshop kind of thing too that you do. Regarding remote viewing and psychic ability, well, is remote viewing a form of psychic ability, or should it not be thought of as one, or is it more astral in nature?
I believe it's astral in nature, but some people will see it as psychic ability because they can't necessarily explain it yet. There's so much research on it. They've been learning a lot. But if you listen to remote viewers, they describe things because they're literally projecting themselves to that place. It's not, they call it remote viewing because they're sitting, like I'm sitting in my room. Let's say I'm sitting in my room and I decide I want to maybe see what's going on at a football game, and I project myself to that game and see what's going on and come back and describe everything that's going on at that game with my physical self. So that is a form of astraling, whereas your psychic abilities is more like a knowing where it just kind of pops in. Remote viewing, you kind of have to go there and figure it out. The movie I love that has to do with all of this stuff is Men Who Stare at Goats. It's kind of a silly movie, but it's also not. And I think it helps explain a bunch of things that people who are not psychically aware, not metaphysically aware, can help to open at least questioning things and maybe promote inquiry into these different aspects of our intuitive selves as opposed to psychic selves, which to me it's the same thing. Metaphysical selves, all of that. I absolutely believe that as man evolves, we're going to be able to just walk through walls without a problem. We'll be doing a lot of things that we don't do right now because we feel we're on this certain dimension. We put ourselves in boxes, which we really aren't in, because we are infinite. We have multi-levels, multi-dimensions. We can do all of this stuff. It's just kind of linking into the vibration of it.
Right, and regarding remote viewing being going out to find something, that does raise the question of, well, the things you're trying to find, could they know that you're scanning them? Well, apparently the answer is yes, considering that it's been said by some in the remote viewing whistleblowing community that if you try to remote view Area 51, they have a way of knowing that you're remote viewing it, or any other secret government base where they know that it exists, but it's secret because they don't know what's truly going on in there unless you're a remote viewer, and in which case they're going to try to attack the person who's remote viewing, which kind of raises the question: how could you possibly attack someone who's remote viewing if it's just their consciousness that's there? Well, another example to maybe try to make sense of something like that has Jim Marrs, the late Jim Marrs, talked about in his book Alien Agenda about remote viewers scanning some sort of ziggurat-like higher level consciousness structure, where like some sort of a ET council or whatever was at, or an angel council, if you will. And when they went inside the structure and got to some pedestal-like structure in the middle of it, some angelic entity came up to the person who was remote viewing it, and for all intents and purposes said, "Congratulations on remote viewing this place, but you're not supposed to be here. Now beat it." And the and the remote viewing session was shut off in a heartbeat at that moment. So
Yeah, it's much easier to just block people than it is. I don't think that remote viewers would be necessarily attacked, but if you don't want people to know what you're doing, you just block them. It's pretty, it's kind of simple, but that's probably for another show.
okay, right. And on that note, we've almost reached the 2 hour point. So I'm going to give you this chance now to get out anything you like, make another sales pitch, if you will, out of some of the things that you offer. Please give out your websites and whatnot too, so people can get that out, and how to reach you if you want to get that out too. And then we'll call it a night, and I'll bid you good day, and I hope I'll see you at some. I know I'll see you at some point, but
Okay, great.
maybe your retreat someday in the future too, in addition to the place on Bristol.
Okay, yep. We are located, my center's called, I don't even, it's called Karen Angels Center, I guess. We're on the meetup, Karen Angels Ben Salem meetup. We are at 2780 Bristol Pike in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania, easy to get to. The website to start at is karenangel.com, and it's KaranAngel. I offer teaching, reading. I really just want to help people to know who they are, to be their brightest self, to understand some of the metaphysical things that are out there, including psychic abilities. There's been a lot of misinformation. I like to help people and to let everyone know you can do this too. I'm not special. I've just practiced it more. I'm a little more experienced, but many people can do what I do and can learn the things that I've learned. I love the angels. They work with me the most. That seems to be my talent. It seems to be the energies that work with me the strongest, that enable people to connect with their higher selves the easiest way. And I really thank you, Andrew, for letting me on your show this evening. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
I look forward to seeing you too. So, with that being said, I will upload this interview to YouTube compatible format tonight. It may not be until tomorrow before I can upload it, but if I do, it'll be before midnight, as I promise all my guests at the end of every show. So, with that being, I will make sure I send you a link to it on Facebook, I guess, as well after I do that. So, if you want to promote it, by all means. So, that being
Perfect.
said, enjoy your Friday night, enjoy your weekend, and I'll definitely see you at some future event at Karen's Angels or maybe a future retreat. Take care.
Okay,
Namaste.
thanks. Thanks, Andrew. Bye.
Bye.